Lovely humans of the interwebs. Welcome to eSpot Live. I am Ellie, the Ducks Rodney. It is good to be here. Happy Monday. Happy International Women's Day. I'm celebrating by dressing like a pirate, apparently. Yeah, I always like to open these up with disclaimers. The only thing I have to say is I'm getting kind of notifications off and on throughout the introduction there that talked a little bit about dropping frames. So please let me know if you notice anything for Chromosome a bit wonky. Let me know in the chat if anything's not going as smoothly as it's supposed to be, and I'll attempt to fix it. But it's kind of like fluctuating back and forth. Like sometimes it's saying that it's streaming fine, and sometimes it's saying that it's dropping frames. So I shall rely upon you guys to let me know if it's problematic. But aside from that, frighteningly enough, I think that's all I have for disclaimers. I have officially worked out the software issue that I was running into that caused all sorts of drama over the past couple weeks. So grateful for that. Super excited. Hoping it's going to be a really smooth stream today. But yeah, that's all I got for disclaimers for the day. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into today's topics. Yeah, let's just do this. Let's pull up my notes here. So first up on eSpot Live, I want to open up with something a little bit funny, like less serious than a lot of the other things that I chat about on eSpot. So, yeah, whenever possible, we like to kind of open on a positive note. So here goes nothing. Pitch Perfect star Anna Kendrick has publicly taken responsibility for one of the film's songs wreaking absolute havoc on the grounds of summer camps nationwide during the hellish summer of 2013. For those of you who aren't as familiar with Pitch Perfect, Kendrick starred in the 2012 blockbuster as Becca. Her character was an aspiring DJ in her freshman year of college, who joins a struggling all-female a cappella group after the group's president encourages her to audition. And yeah, it became a very popular musical comedy. It was co-written by 30 Rock and New Girl's Kay Cannon, co-directed by Elizabeth Banks. Really fantastic, fun, light film. I don't know if light's the right word, actually, but really fun film. Really awesome music in the film. And, yeah, within the show, Becca auditions for the Barden Bellas with the infamous cup song. So essentially she uses a literal cup as a percussive instrument and sings along to it. Anna Kendrick herself got the idea from an already viral video that she saw. She wasn't the first person to do this, but it definitely absolutely skyrocketed into viralness to a crazy extent after the film released. And yeah, it's been performed now by a number of musicians over the years, both with and without cups. And yeah, that just, I feel like that film just fully popularized it in a way that nobody could have fully seen coming. And then in the meantime, TV writer and absolutely traumatized former camp counselor Ellery Smith recently summoned the bravery to come forward with the absolutely harrowing account of the summer after the film's release. Apparently, the catchy a cappella tune makes for a perfect camp sing-along because it can be performed with regular dinnerware. And the kids at the camp took it to a whole new level for camp counselors. So Kendrick came out and publicly apologized for being personally responsible for that song's rise to absolute frenzy in the summer of 2013. I just think that's funny. It's a very lighthearted entertainment news event in the midst of, you know, some less lighthearted things that people have to talk about. So, glad to be able to cover this. Yeah, and wow, that's not English. Anna Kendrick's career definitely took off after Pitch Perfect. It's not the first movie she was in, but I completely lost my place. Interesting to note, her first role in a feature film was actually another musical comedy from 2003 called Camp. So, Camp, and then Pitch Perfect infiltrating camps. Hello. J-Man's in the chat. Hello. Welcome. You weren't well, actually, no, you are first today. Look at that. Catching up on the notes really quick. Kendrick's public apology is an absolutely hilarious acknowledgement of just how ubiquitous. Why can't I English today? Goodness. The song got really popular. Somebody complained. She apologized. It's funny. Lighthearted opening to today's episode of eSpot Live, even though apparently I can't word about it, which is fine. So yeah, for anybody who feels like they've been personally affected by the viral nonsense that was the Cup song for a couple years after the film released, that apology is for you. Next up to chat about is a completely different topic, but also just like something that I find really, really cool and fascinating. So, Ghost of Tsushima's developers have been officially named ambassadors of Tsushima Island. So 2 of Ghost of Tsushima's lead developers have been made tourism ambassadors of the real-life island, as first reported by Video Game Chronicle, Ghost of Tsushima. I worded that wrong too. By Video Games Chronicle. So Ghost of Tsushima, the creative director Jason Connell and games director Nate Fox will both be made permanent tourism ambassadors for the island of Tsushima. The honor has been granted by the city in Nagasaki, where the mayor of the city has announced that a new tourism initiative based on the game to encourage more people to visit the island behind Sucker Punch's game has been put into place, which is really, really cool. So this is an instance where the creators of the video game kind of took an interest in a very real life place that wasn't very well known, and they put so much real effort and history into the video game that this was acknowledged by the city itself, and they've been made real life ambassadors of tourism for this island in order to really kind of, I guess, gather more attention to it, but also really, really teach the history. So the mayor of Tsushima City is quoted as saying, "Connell and Fox spread the name and history of Tsushima to the whole world in such a wonderful way. Even a lot of Japanese people do not know the history of the Genko period. When it comes to the world, the name and location of Tsushima is literally unknown, so I cannot thank them enough for telling our story with such phenomenal graphics and profound stories." Currently, the ceremony bestowing the honor is scheduled to take place digitally due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, once the current travel ban is lifted, the hope is to extend an offer for the entire development team at Sucker Punch to visit the island and city of Tsushima. The game itself has been nothing short of a smash hit. Very successful game for Sucker Punch since it launched last year in 2020. It sold through well over 5 million copies worldwide as of November 2020, and players of Sucker Punch's game raised a grand total of $260,000 to restore the island's real-life shrine, which was significantly damaged during a recent storm. Elsewhere on the interwebs, there's been a number of hints as to a possible sequel to Ghost of Tsushima being in development at Sucker Punch. Not officially confirmed yet, for the record, but several job advertisements at Sucker Punch have hinted at a new game in the works, and they're specifically asking for combat designers familiar with Ghost of Tsushima's combat. So here's to hoping we might see a sequel coming. It's really, really cool to see what the original game was able to do. This is one of those things where you have absolute 100% evidence of media and entertainment really positively impacting the world, right? We have this video game that, like I said, just kind of took that extra step of not just kind of coming up with a place, but modeling it on real life, and modeling it on real life in such a way that they actually get recognition from the mayor of the real life place. And it raises awareness, but also it builds this really, really cool connection. People who have played this game feel enough of a connection to this physical location that they've never been, that when something happened to it, they put in real resources in order to help. And I just think that's really, really incredible. I think it's an awesome example of, again, entertainment just positively impacting the world. I think my personal belief is that entertainment will always carry an impact. And seeing it used for good in such an obvious and just fantastic way is really, really cool. And then they're being rewarded for it as well. Like, that's just, what an honor. I love that. I love that whole thing that's happening. So just thought I'd share that. Gonna catch up on the chat really quick. G-Man saying, referring to the cup song from the first topic, brings me back to high school. I feel that. I may or may not have learned the cup song years ago. I'm not cliche. What? All right. Next up to chat about is a Nintendo topic. So there's some new Nintendo Switch official details out of the Nintendo Switch with a bigger Samsung OLED display later this year that will be able to output 4K ultra high definition graphics when in docked mode. So this was reported by Bloomberg. Nintendo's planning to unveil this new model in hopes that the larger touchscreen can prop up demand in time for the holidays. Samsung Display Co. will start mass production of 7-inch 720p resolution OLED panels as early as June 2021, with an initial monthly target of under 1 million units. The displays are then going to be sent to assemblers in July. And then, yeah, it's looking like they're ramping up for massive holiday sales, which is super exciting for people who are looking forward to that. So just for reference, the current Nintendo Switch model features a 6.2-inch 720p resolution screen. The new screen is going to look kind of like if you extended the current screen in order to replace most of the black bezel around it. So it's not a massive difference, but it's decent. Going from 6.2 inches to 7 inches. Yeah, it's essentially going to just take up a lot more of what might have felt like dead space. The OLED panel is going to consume less battery, offer a high display. So that was a quote by Yoshio Tamura, who's co-founder of display consultancy DSCC. The report also claims that Nintendo has decided to go with rigid OLED panels for this new model, which is a cheaper but less flexible alternative to the type commonly used for high-end smartphones. This deal will benefit Samsung Display, as the market prices for the rigid OLED panels were falling due to excess supply. So that's an example of them using what they already have. It's a good way to save money but still give out a quality product, right? This is hopefully also going to benefit Nintendo, as this partnership will help them in a time where semiconductor shortages are causing delays for PS5s, Xbox Series X consoles, and graphics cards. So this rumored Switch Pro, as some have called it, has been in high demand from fans for some time. Nintendo has been historically very tight-lipped about any new model, and Nintendo president Shintaro Furukawa has recently said that they will not be announcing a new model anytime soon. Many also believe that Nintendo has no reason to rush out a Switch Pro, as the console is still selling incredibly well. The lifetime sales recently passed 79.87 million, which in and of itself has already passed the Nintendo 3DS, and it's been the best-selling console for nearly 2 years now. Nintendo recently held its first Nintendo Direct since September 4th of 2019, and it showcased some of the biggest games coming to the Switch in 2021 and beyond. So it's looking like they might have some more secrets up their sleeves, but we'll have to wait and see. Super exciting stuff there. that's all I got for Nintendo. And there's not really a very good transition to get from Nintendo to Steak and Shake, but that's what I'm doing. So there's your transition. Next up to chat about is, yes, just a little bit on Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake is officially replacing some for the future. So the restaurants will no longer be quite as you've gotten to know them and been used to them. The parent company says that they're making a pandemic pivot, transitioning the popular steak burger and shake eatery into a quick service restaurant. Quote by Sandra Biglari, CEO and chairman of Biglari Holdings, the chain's parent company, says that Steak and Shake is in an era of radical transformation. Since 1934, customers have enjoyed sipping on shakes, eating their steak burgers and skinny fries amid the black and white interior. You're still going to be able to enjoy your meal inside, but Biglari says the biggest change for customers will be that you no longer order at a table. Biglari also said that the change is a way to embrace efficiency and transitioning the service model to empower our guests to place and pick up their own orders. The hope is to kind of like, I don't want to say keep up with the times, but again, just embrace a lot of the changes that have occurred through this global pandemic. The company explains that for much of 2020, off-premises business, so drive-through, delivery, takeout, etc., that became their business. Biglari stated that the company increased off-premise sales for comparable stores by 14%. They generated cash from operations and they turned the business around during the pandemic, which is pretty cool that they were able to do that. The company says it expects to amplify profits by reopening the dining rooms and believes that this switch to self-service and quick serve will enhance the company's economics. So the other big change that they're making is they're switching to a franchise partnership model, which isn't going to impact the consumer necessarily, but essentially what this means is a single store owner will run each restaurant. Biglari says despite the innovations underway, what is fundamental to the company, frankly, the steak burgers and milkshakes, right? That's going to remain exactly the same. So anybody concerned that this is going to really, really impact either the food or whatever, that's not necessarily the case. It's just kind of switching the model to be more, I guess, friendly to the current model, which again is more focused on external sales, while still allowing for opening up the dine-in, there we go, that's the word I'm looking for, the dine-in areas, reopening the dine-in areas, in hopefully a safer and more efficient way. So I haven't been to a Steak and Shake in years, guys. This is like, it's like straight up nostalgia. When I think Steak and Shake, I think like middle school. I don't even know why. It's been a minute. But yeah, it's going to be shifting a little bit from the traditional Steak and Shake we know. As long as they don't change the shakes, I think we're good. So that's pretty much it. And now that I'm talking about beverages, it's an excellent time for our regularly scheduled water break. Hey, yeah, see that? Drink some water. I'm going to. Just to get ahead of the conversation in the chat that may or may not happen. Other drinks are good, but water is necessary. So yes, enjoy your Coca-Cola and tea and boba and chocolate milk and milkshakes. And Respawn, and all of these amazing things, but also drink water. Your kidneys will thank you. And on that note, I will be right back. And gonna jump into slightly less of a lighthearted section, I suppose, of eSpot Live. Next up to chat about is a little bit of a controversy behind some of the people working on Hogwarts Legacy and the repercussions thereof. So, Hogwarts Legacy's lead designer has formally quit after a bit of a YouTube controversy. So, the lead designer of Avalanche Software's Hogwarts Legacy, which is an open-world Harry Potter adventure due to launch in 2022, has officially left the project. Troy Leavitt, whose YouTube channel espoused Gamergate sympathies and other far-right cultural criticisms, said on Thursday evening that he had parted ways with Avalanche and would explain more in a YouTube video later. On Twitter, Leavitt said that he left Avalanche on good terms and that he wanted to resign for reasons, quote, that I will explain in that forthcoming video, end quote. He said he has nothing but good things to say about the game, the dev team, and Warner Brothers games. Hogwarts Legacy attracted controversy from the day it was announced in September, mainly because of Harry Potter creator J.K. Rowling's recent history of transphobic statements and writings. In response, Warner Brothers Games specified in an FAQ published after the game's September 16th reveal that Rowling herself has no direct involvement in Hogwarts Legacy's story or development. And then, on February 19th, Liam Robertson of Did You Know Gaming called attention to Leavitt's 4-year-old YouTube channel, whose 60 videos or so direct harsh right-wing criticism at pop culture critic Anita Sarkeesian, other feminists, and social justice advocates at large. Some of Leavitt's videos also sympathize with Gamergate, a 6-year-old reactionary harassment campaign that targets feminists, progressive, and other social justice voices who develop or comment on video games. Prior to kind of prepping for this, I was not familiar with Gamergate, and I did a bit of research, and yeah, a little bit depressing there. Anyways, in one video, Leavitt said he told his employers at Utah-based Avalanche and Warner Brothers Games about his YouTube channel and its content, and neither seemed concerned about it. He does quickly add to that, saying, quote, not that they endorse anything I've said, of course, but at least they seem more open, end quote. In response, the popular video game forum Reset Era, whose users frequently share trailers, screenshots, other promotional materials of games in development, banned all promotional discussion or hype threads of Hogwarts Legacy going forward. And then earlier this week, Bloomberg reported that Hogwarts Legacy would include gender-agnostic character creation options, which will allow users to build out a player character with voice and body types that aren't bound to one another, or any gender presentation. Bloomberg's report added that other developers at Avalanche Software were sad and frustrated by the controversy the game had drawn more than a year away from launch, and that the project's management had reportedly resisted developers' attempt to put a trans-inclusive character creator in the game. Warner Brothers confirmed that Leavitt has made the decision to leave Avalanche Software, and then declined further comment. Hogwarts Legacy itself is expected in 2022 on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Windows PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. That, I don't know how much I have to add on that particular topic. Aside from the fact that I think more and more we're seeing, more and more I feel like we're seeing the repercussions of people's choices that they make on publishing opinions and etc. on social media. And that in and of itself is controversial. You know, we have one side staunchly defending, you know, people losing jobs over statements, and one side, you know, bringing up cancel culture as this thing. Maybe be careful where I'm going with this, but my personal thought on this has always been, if I work at a corporation and nobody cares about me, right? Nobody knows my name, nobody knows my face, but I have a job at like something like just a well-known food chain even. I'm talking a minimum wage level job. When you enter that, you sign an agreement that states that there are rules when it comes to what you can and cannot do on social media. You have to be very careful about when you're representing the company and how you're representing the company. And that's across the board at any job you have. And so I've kind of always been of the opinion that across the board, it would be nice to see people held to the same expectations, regardless of how much clout they happen to have. I think there's a lot there that can be unpacked. I don't necessarily know that this is the time and place to do so I won't go in too deep. Unless, let me know in the chat. Feedback is always welcome on what kind of topics you want to dig in a little deeper to. But yeah, I just want to say that, something that I'm keeping an eye on objectively, because I find it kind of fascinating. And personally, I can understand subjectively that it's hard for people to come to terms with, for sure. But I also kind of want to point out, in the midst of all of this controversy, that, again, this type of thing happens whether you work at, a production company, or are on a film set, or are working for, a fast food chain restaurant. It's not necessarily just because of the public eye, but it's interesting to see kind of how society is shifting around that and the attention that has been brought to this particular topic. And on that note, I'm going to wrap that topic up. Next up to chat about is hypothetically exciting, but kind of more confusing, if we're being honest. So, Minecraft Dungeons is being turned into an arcade game, which on the one hand, cool, right? But on the other hand, there is a pandemic on at the moment, just in case people have forgotten that. So Mojang announced yesterday that Minecraft Dungeons arcade cabinets are on their way to arcades in North America for limited testing, with more cabinets coming later this year. Minecraft Dungeons was released last year on Xbox One and PC. It's kind of a Diablo-like dungeon crawler set in the blocky world of Minecraft. Up to 4 players can jump in together. You can fight back waves of Minecraft enemies like skeletons, zombies, spiders. And now you can do it in an arcade, which again, I want to be super excited about because cool, but again, pandemic. Especially, I just keep thinking of an arcade. I can get really, really particular about what I will and will not touch just anyways. And the idea of arcades, I go to arcades and I use a lot of hand sanitizer regardless, but the idea of going to an arcade now is a little bit terrifying. Yeah, a blog post kind of went into a little more detail, the one that announced the new arcade machine, and said that Minecraft Dungeons Arcade will take the action and gameplay of the original game and simplify things a bit to make it work better as a co-op arcade game. Players are going to be able to earn different physical trading cards that they can collect and scan into the machine to get powers, weapons, and pets. The cabinet looks really cool as well, for the record, and the in-game screenshots shared by Mojang look amazing. It all sounds really, really cool. I just personally cannot imagine venturing out really anywhere, much less an arcade in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Especially, like I said, I just obsessively would be thinking about how many other people may or may not have touched it beforehand. Also, especially, I feel like in a year of news that's hey, this thing was something you had to go out and do it, but now you can do it at home. It's a little bizarre to hear, hey, this thing that you can do safely at home, now you can go out in public and do it. I just think personally that the timing on this is a little bit wonky, because that's my word. Here's to hoping that it's not just this limited time thing, and that it's something that will be established for when it is more safe to go out in public. I do want to mention that Mojang did emphasize that they're only sending cabinets to arcades that, quote, follow local health guidelines, end quote, in order to help slow the spread of COVID and mitigate risk. My counter thought to that is, local health guidelines are not the most consistent across the board. So for some places, see certain states, there really aren't many local health guidelines in place. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Like I said, it's something that I am theoretically super excited about because it just sounds cool. And frankly, at some point in life, I want to go back to an arcade, right? Like, it's nostalgic, it's exciting, it's a place to go with friends. I am looking forward to all of these things. But frankly, for myself, not until much later, once more people have been vaccinated, once there's more herd immunity, once we have notice from international health departments that it's safer to engage in these activities again, that's when I'll get hyped about this. In the meantime, it is super cool. And frankly, if it's in your local area and something that you feel safe with, go for it. I guess it's out there. But yeah, hypothetically speaking, my Minecraft Dungeons arcade sounds really, really fun. I'm looking forward to it. It exists now. That's pretty much all I have to sum up that particular topic. Alright, next to chat about. Stadia and Discord can now be used on Xbox through their new Edge browser, which is kind of exciting. So the Xbox One/Series web browser has just received a nifty little update for testers that overhauls its web browser, moving towards the updated Chromium-based Microsoft Edge. So with this little update, it can now run Google Stadia, Amazon Luna, and GeForce Now. On top of that, Discord and Skype are both browser-based. But given the limitation of Xbox Microsoft Edge prior to this update, they weren't usable whatsoever. Now, with this new update, players can jump into Discord and Skype calls, making cross-platform play so much easier. This new Microsoft Edge also seems to share the sync engine, which means that Xbox players will have access to extensions, vertical tabs, collections, and other desktop features. That being said, it's only up for grabs right now for those in the Alpha Skip Ahead group, and it doesn't yet feature mouse and keyboard support. Something else that this is going to bring is inevitable support for streaming services not yet on Xbox, given that, in essence, it's the desktop Microsoft Edge on a console. So as such, if your favorite service, be it something niche with documentaries or something larger with anime, if it's not yet officially supported, you should be able to give it a whirl with this new Edge. Some users are already pointing out that the updated browser plays videos better on platforms such as Twitter, which really does bode well. This means that topped with Xbox own Game Pass, there's now going to be this gigantic library of titles available in streaming bundles for players. If PS Now ever makes the leap to being web-based as opposed to its current software-based format, then maybe one day we'll be able to leap into the world of Kratos and the Greek gods on an Xbox, of all things. Outside of Fortnite, of course. So that's super exciting stuff. That's, I think, a very good direction to move. I'm personally excited about everything that's going to open up for players and streamers, etc. Yeah, really, really fun stuff there. And last but not least, to chat about today, for those of you who may have been personally experiencing issues with the Xbox Series XS controllers, in that the button taps may not be going unregistered, this is a problem that Microsoft themselves are aware of, and they've publicly declared that they're aware of it and actively working on a fix. So, for people who have been concerned about that, fear not! A fix is coming. Don't yet know how long, because as far as I understand, they're still troubleshooting to figure out the why and how of the fix necessity. There we go. I can English words goodly. So yeah, the good news is Microsoft has publicly acknowledged the issue. They're actively working on a fix. The bad news is it's really annoying if it's an issue you're currently facing, and there's no time frame for the fix yet. So right now, if you're experiencing these issues, there aren't too many options short of returning the controller, except just sitting back and waiting until it's resolved, and hoping it happens sooner rather than later, and keeping an eye on Microsoft updates. I think, again, that's the biggest thing, is that they've acknowledged this, and they're working on it, so I'm sure that we'll be, as consumers, hearing about kind of what phase they're in with that process. It is worth noting, too, before anybody gets too impatient, controller design's a pretty tricky business nowadays. Controllers themselves have become infinitely more complicated than they were once upon a time, right? It's just the design, functionality, all of that has just increased exponentially, compared to just like way back when it was just like a button or two. That's it. But now you have things like multiple buttons, D-pads, analog joysticks, triggers, motorized rumbling, other features, and all of these are commonplace. And so with all of these things integrated into a single controller, that's the word I was looking for, it kind of does make sense that occasionally things will go a bit wonky. Usually we hear about things like drift issues, like with the Joy-Con. So this is kind of a new one. As this newer controller is finding its way into more and more hands, these complaints about it being unresponsive has kind of risen up, and it's a notable thing because it's across the board regardless of what you're using. So this is both on the Xbox console as well as on PC that this issue is happening. So a player who goes by SK Lee lamented to the loadout that the Y button on their controller bears the brunt of the issue, and it absolutely wrecks the experience of playing FIFA on PC. SK Lee's quoted as saying, "The controller consistently failed me several times in a 15-minute game," end quote. Since then, he's gone back to using a Logitech controller. So that's the issue on the PC side, but whatever the cause, it really does seem to be platform agnostic because it's affecting both Xbox Series X and S as well as PC players. YouTube user True Gaming HD demonstrated their controller going completely unresponsive, while seemingly still connected to an Xbox Series X, which prompted a reboot of the console. Microsoft has told the loadout, quote, "At Microsoft, we put all of our products through rigorous quality assurance testing and are committed to providing customers with an unparalleled gaming experience. We are aware some players may be experiencing unresponsiveness in their new Xbox wireless controllers, and our teams are actively working on a solution. For the best experience, we encourage customers to visit Xbox support for assistance," end quote. It's going to be really interesting to see what this future fix is going to look like, whether it's going to have to be swapping the controller, if it's going to be, sending it in for repair, or if it's something that can possibly be done on a software side. Though, because it's affecting the platforms across the board, the latter seems a bit unlikely. More likely it is going to be a hardware either swap or repair. So definitely keep an eye on that. We will be keeping an eye on that as well and keeping you guys updated whenever there's an official announcement on what the next step is for people experiencing this issue. You will hear it here on eSpot Live. And that's all I really got for today. Today's kind of a shorter episode. But I do want to thank you guys so much for coming, for chatting, for all of it. Make sure that you're following us across social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Discord. I feel like I missed one. We're on all of them. Twitch, obviously, for people watching on Twitch. Make sure you follow us, and we've got new content coming. We're super excited about it. We're also obviously, or maybe not obviously, we're always working on improvements. That goes for eSpot Live, that goes for our other shows, that goes for our games. By the way, check out Awoken on Steam. Everything's always getting updates, but in order to do this and do this well, we need information from you guys as to what you want to see shift and change. So feedback, we live on feedback. Join our Discord server and let us know what you think of eSpot Live, what could be better, what you want to see more of or less of. And you might be surprised who answers. I'm also on the Discord server. just in case that wasn't clear. So yes, check us out on Discord. I will personally be back for eSpot Live on Thursday. That's going to be at 6 p.m. if you're on the East Coast, 3 p.m. if you're on the West Coast. Make sure you guys are staying happy and healthy and safe in the midst of all of the crazy. And of course, as always, make sure that you stay devious.